I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, The Moats Theory of Life. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, I strongly encourage you to. This book not only is a fun read, but it's a guide to helping you become a person of impact and inspiration. If you are ready to take the next step to improving not only your life, but those around you as well, go get a copy of The Moats Theory of Life, and it's available at moatstheory.com. What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's up, bro?
Man, you already know what it is over here, man. Another beautiful day, the second day in December, but more importantly, man, it's another episode that's brought to you by DRAFTKINGS Sportsbook. You know DRAFTKINGS Sportsbook, right?
Who doesn't?
I mean, they are America's top-rated sports booking app. I mean, they're safe. We know that. Secure. But what's that other thing? It's reliable. Reliable. We both love reliability. I mean, we think about just this show is very reliable. People love reliability, man.
We're consistent, yes.
And DraftKings Sportsbook is very consistent in that same regard. And not only are they consistent, but they have something special going on right now, man. For all of the first-time users out there, if you use the promo code MOATS when you first sign up, you will receive up to $1,000. Let me say that again. Up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. I mean, that's a great situation right there. I don't know about you. I love getting free money though, baby.
Yeah. Who doesn't really?
I mean, not only are you getting free money, but you're going to use that free money to get an opportunity to win even more money. So that's a win-win in all situations right there. So what are you waiting for? Don't waste any time. Download the app, use the promo code, and let's get an opportunity to make a little bit of that money. And speaking of opportunities, this week we got another one.
Is that the go-to transition?
That is the go-to because we got an opportunity to go to 12-0. There's no other teams around that got that opportunity in the NFL. So, you know, that's how we transition. But before
you want to talk about consistency, there it is.
I mean, it's beautiful, man. The Steelers are consistent. We're consistent. DraftKings is consistent. So we're at the stage right now where consistently winning games, and we're looking forward to going 12-0. But of course, we can't just go to 12-0. We have to recap, right? We have to dissect. We have to critique and criticize this 11-0 performance. So then that way we could go on to 12-0 and then keep this gravy train rolling. So my initial thoughts, man, it was a crazy situation, bro. First off, a Wednesday 3:40 kickoff. I don't think any of us could have imagined that, man.
I kind of liked it.
I'm not going to lie. I did too. Listen, I thought I was going to be the only one who liked the 3:40 kickoff. It was super weird at first. Like, I got on my radio show. We ended up having to go in early because obviously with it being a game day, the broadcast restrictions, I mean, it's a certain amount of time that you can record a live show before the national broadcast takes over. And also certain things that you can and cannot say as well. It's a weird scenario. So even from there, it was like my day started off. I'm like, all right. Okay, I'm done. I'm done super early. I'm done around noon instead of 2. All right, now what am I supposed to do? I'm like, all right, can I pregame? So because it's a Wednesday, right? Usually, you know, if you're gonna watch a game, you pregame, but usually it's like Sunday, maybe Monday night, but mainly it's Sunday, or for the college football, you got Saturday. So it was weird. I did pregame. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a little after it, you know. To spice up my Wednesday
It did feel like a long wait time getting up to the game. It
Yes,
definitely
bro.
did. Like, I couldn't imagine if it would have been 7 or 8. But, you know, we always like the primetime games. We were unsure. What's this 3:40 going to be like? It's kind of this weird time slot. I ended up liking it. I really did.
And I think another thing for me, why I was a little bit of a fan of the 3:40. Remember when we talked about this earlier in the year, I said I really don't like the 1 o'clock. I feel like it's too early. And I personally don't like the super late 8:25s either. But I said for me, the 4:25, 4 o'clock, I love because you get early game in the first half, and then it becomes prime time.
Feels
in the
a little
second
prime
half.
time. Yep.
So I felt like I did get a little bit of that here with this 3:40 kickoff. Obviously, with it being the fall, it got a little bit darker out there in the second half. So I was like, all right, I like that a little bit. I still think 4:25 was my sweet spot, but the 3:40 was cool. I wasn't opposed to it. Now, I guess the real question: did you stay on NBC afterwards to watch the Rockefeller tree lighting? We know that was a big deal. We had Dolly Parton, we had Earth, Wind and Fire, we had Meghan Trainor. You know, it's all about that bass. I mean, it was one of those vibes. Goo Goo Dolls. I mean, did you tune in? No. Oh man, come on, baby. It's Rockefeller. It's the tree. It's Christmas, man.
They're the ones that screwed us out of that primetime spot.
No, man, no, they ain't screw us out of this, man. The Ravens screwed us out of this because we were supposed to play it last week. But it's all good. It's all good.
Dude, there has been, as much as you don't want to say, oh, the Steelers are getting screwed here, the NFL's against us, there has been some shaky stuff going on along this process.
Yes, it has. It definitely has, man. And did you like the very scripted Roger Goodell halftime speech where he's gonna, oh man, this is what was going on and why we had to move the game. But I'm excited because I think we're gonna end on a high note. All right, no questions. Go to the next.
I'm surprised they did that actually, but at the same time, I was thinking, I guess you got to say something.
Damage control, bro. It was damage control. As soon as he came on, I'm looking. I'm like, oh yeah, this big time damage control right here. He's not doing an open. It's not an open interview. It's a, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm reading off of my script. You see him looking down the whole time. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm with it. I'm with it. I like it. I see what's going on here, baby. So go ahead, read your little script, get us up out of here, and act like nothing happened. Start the second half, and that's what they did. It was hilarious to me. I'm like, but you got to do that when you talk about moving the game multiple times, and it's to the point where okay, you have 20 something people that were either positive or a contact trace. So then you start getting the people questioning, oh, is it even healthy enough to or safe enough to play this game? So I felt like he had to say something from that standpoint. But then also because of how he was really bending over backwards for Baltimore in their situation compared to some of these other situations that we've seen this year, I thought that he had to address that as well. Even if I really didn't buy it all the way, I still feel like he had to say 100%. Something. And
yeah, you like all those answers, you knew those were going to be the answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine. It's just like, all right, just do something though. It goes back to, remember when we were talking about the COVID stuff, it's just like there's some businesses and stuff that would send out emails to people. It's like, all right, this is nice.
You just have to do it. You have to do it.
We know what you're going to say, but then there's other ones you're like, yo, can we just at least hear from you a little bit?
Because if you don't send the email out, that's the issue. But you got to send it out. You at least got to say, hey, we're practicing these protocols. Or even,
it's a bullshit transcript. We know what it's going to be.
Or even when the social justice movement was getting really big, right? Man, we all got the second wave of emails. Hey, we're working on being very diverse and inclusive. Man, we're doing this and this and this. It's like, all right. I mean, I feel like you had to say it. It's understandable. I'm glad you did say something because the ones that didn't say something, it looks really bad.
Right.
So the NFL, they handled it as best as they could for the circumstances. And like you said, we both kind of expected it. But for me, man, like I said, I really enjoyed the 3:40 kickoff. And then when the game was over, I still had like a good amount of time. I was like, I could just kick back.
Wait, so you watched the NBC thing afterwards?
I watched a little bit of it, yeah. I did. I'm not gonna lie. I watched a little bit of it. But then after that, I was like, because I told you I had already pregame. And then by the time the tree lighting started, I was probably a little bit, past that inebriation stage where at least I could be inebriated and coherent. I was inebriated, not really coherent at the moment after that. So it was like, it was on. Might have seen a light, might have heard an Earth, Wind & Fire song, and then it kind of all ran together. I woke up and I'm like, oh, it's Lifetime on right now. When did I even change the channel? Don't know. Doesn't really matter, bro.
Passed out.
Hey, man, you 11, you got to celebrate.
I fell asleep early too, but it was I was watching South Park. They had like a little marathon going on Comedy Central, so that's my show.
Oh yeah.
That's all I did. I had a fire going on downstairs for the game.
Okay.
After the game, grabbed some food. We had some leftover pizza and stuff, and then I was just looking to see what was on, see if there's a good movie or anything. Saw South Park was on the next however many hours, so just threw that on. I'm like, I'm gonna go to sleep here. Yeah,
see, first we ended up eating beforehand, so I was done.
Yeah,
it was good. It was a good vibe, man. It was a real good vibe. But before we get to the questions, I guess what was your initial reaction to the game? And before we even get to the initial reaction, shout out to the fit, bro. I love the fact the playoff beard is it's not even playoff beard, just the undefeated beard is still growing wild. I haven't really said anything to you because I'm like, typically it hasn't looked as wild, but today, I don't know if it's the beard plus like the coat, the sweats, the taco meat showing. Like, I was like, bro, you look kind of like homeless today. Like, are you good? He's like, oh, bro, it's still winning. I'm like, all right, keep it going. You made me. I thought I needed to like offer like the guest room or something for a second, bro. Like is everything good on the home front, man?
Yeah, did I just drive from the parking lot?
I feel like I should have like dropped off something in your little cup. Like, here, man, go get you something to eat today, bro.
I actually really watched the game at like a Primanti's, and after that, I
just went on the side of the Primanti's and went to sleep. It was good.
Watched South Park on my phone. That's really what happened.
Yeah, man.
The game though, I'm fine, dude. It's a win. I really don't care. I know a lot of people are probably upset, and we didn't win in the fashion we should have or not, but I look back at some of our Super Bowl teams and everything, or just any good team. Those teams have had losses. You have some bad games here and there, and at the end of the day, that team is still definitely capable of winning a Super Bowl. You're still one of the top teams in the league. And that's really all that matters. As long as you have a chance, we're 11-0 and we still have a chance. It's definitely unfortunate with the Bud Dupree injury. Like, that's the one thing. Like, honestly, if you're going to have to do like a trade-off or something, even though this is some completely hypothetical that you can't really weigh or take into any real consideration at all. But yeah, I'd rather have Bud Dupree and have a loss, going forward. But just in terms of the game, yeah, it was ugly. It's whatever. I actually think there's a lot of positives, like silver linings that you could take from it going forward. So I'm good with it, dude. Like I said, I mean, we're still one of the top teams in the league. We have a chance at the Super Bowl. We got 7. We got a chance. So that's about it.
I hear you keep saying one of the top teams. I know last week and all the weeks prior to you said we were the top team.
Well, this was a whole thing that was going on in my mind too. I'm getting tired of trying to have this mid-season debate or war with other teams.
I thought that's what we're supposed to do, though.
I'm good with it because now all of a sudden we're at this point in the season. I just told you the Bud Dupree thing. It definitely like brings everything into a perspective where you're like, dude, I'd just rather have Bud Dupree at this point. I'd rather be healthy going in the playoffs. We're one of the top teams. I'd say we're the top team, but I'm done having this war because all that really matters is who wins the Super Bowl, who does it in the playoffs and when it matters. So we're at this point. You got the playoff teams kind of getting set up now. That's what matters, dude.
I like it. It's just a different tone, man. I felt like all these other weeks prior to this, you were really gung-ho on like us being the number one team. And even when we would try to say, well, hey, it's more so about winning the Super Bowl, it was still very much a week-to-week thing.
I'm still gung-ho about it. It's just tiring now at this point because
because we're supposed to do. We're fans, right? We're
I get it, but I'm telling you, in reality, that's what really matters at this point.
Okay,
that's what really matters.
So it's just a slight change of tone then.
No, I feel that way. I don't want to get worked up anymore. I really don't because the eye is on the prize, and that's the Super Bowl right now. We could have these mid-season awards and going back and forth. Who's the top power ranking?
That's what the people want.
I don't care, man. Like
that's what the people want. That's what you're supposed to do. You're sports media. This is what sports media is. We're supposed to come in and react. We're supposed to come in and preview. We're supposed to come in and recap. We're supposed to say who we think is the front runner for MVPs. Who's the front runner for Offensive Player of the Years? Who's the best team in the league? Who's gonna get the 1 seed? That's what we're supposed to do in sports radio, back. What we talk about here?
I know. I've been hooked in these past however many weeks, but you know what? I'm going back to my initial mindset the first 3 weeks. Don't talk about us. Let us fly under the radar. Our eyes are on the Super Bowl.
No, we talked about a lot yesterday. I'm telling you, we were even trending on social media.
I'm sure. Well, this is why I have.
We talked about a lot yesterday.
This is why I'm saying this because I think a lot of people are talking about us negatively, and that's including the fans. Where I don't really feel that way. I still feel really positive. I do, and I'm just trying to calm the masses here, including the Steeler fans.
I like it, bro. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the other Deke. I expected the Deke to come in here like we still the best. It's not even close, no debate.
I still feel all that way. I do.
But your energy isn't matching.
I am bummed about the Bud Dupree injury. That's going to be interesting how that plays out.
Your energy is a lot higher in terms of just your overall confidence and how you vocally, put that out there. Whereas this time it's real reserved. It's real. Hey, we're looking big picture. I don't care about what our record is. I don't care about what people say about it.
Well, here's the thing. I think a lot of people.
I'm just saying, like 12 weeks though. It's been 12 weeks of you complaining about not being talked about. Even when we said we were being talked about, 12 weeks of, don't talk about us now, but you would still want them to talk about you. Now that we were talked about, I mean, it was big. We were talking about it everywhere yesterday and today, everywhere.
Probably not in a good way. Am I right on that? Because I haven't turned on sports. I don't really want to hear it.
From what I saw, social media was negative. From the national broadcast, it was mixed.
I remember Collinsworth after the game actually saying like, "Yo, there was a lot of things in this game where the Steelers could have blew them out." Like he was talking about Ben.
I saw mix in terms of. I mean, you talk Skip and Shannon, you talk Max and Stephen A. You can go down the list of all these different like people. And it just looked like everybody was kind of like down the middle on it. Like some people that had higher expectations for the team were a little bit down on them. And obviously comparing them to the Kansas City Chiefs. Then you had some that looked at it and said, well, man, silver lining, and pointed to some of those things. And then with Stephen A., he was more frustrated just because of like, he was talking about him just being a fan of the team itself. And that expectation of, man, it's a shell of a Ravens roster versus us being undefeated with Super Bowl, dreams and stuff like that. We should have taken care of business a lot more than how it played out. And for me, man, I kind of fall right in the middle of that as well. I feel like for the things that happened that were negative, it was more self-influenced. I mean, like we brought that upon ourselves. But then I thought we did do some good things. I thought we executed when we needed to. For me, my takeaways from the game were this. I have 4. number one, it sucked that Bud went down, and I felt like that was on us because if the game is taken care of how it's supposed to be, Bud's not out there with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. When you play around with teams, now you have to keep everybody out there. That type of stuff happens. Now, obviously, we could play devil's advocate and say, well, hey, man, it could have happened earlier and all these other things. But for a fact, we know if he's not out there in the fourth quarter, he can't get hurt in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left in the game.
The timing really sucks.
Like that part to me was most frustrating because I felt like, and we both agreed, there were numerous times throughout the first 3 quarters where that game could have been blown out and we wouldn't even been in that scenario. So to me, that was the most frustrating part. But to me, I had wrote down 3 things after that. I said, I was surprised, disappointed, and encouraged. And I wrote them down so that way I have to remember it.
This is deep.
Yeah, so I said I was surprised, first off, by just the overall lack of execution in all 3 phases. I thought both in offense, the red zone struggles, and then the drops. I thought that was the thing that really surprised me. Obviously, in special teams, we were inconsistent. I mean, we missed the field goal. Obviously, Ray McLeod ended up getting hit and losing a fumble. And then defensively, we still had, I didn't call it miscommunication. We had a lot of missed tackles. It was a sloppy performance from that standpoint. So that was what I was surprised at. Then when I said what I was disappointed at, were the red zone, the red zone turnover, more importantly, and how when we would get to the red zone, we would stall every time. I mean, we saw how many times we settled for field goals. And now some of that was just drops. Yeah. Some of it was Baltimore making plays. But as a whole, I thought that for the amount of times we got in the red zone, I thought we should have came with a lot more points than what we ended up coming out with. So that was the first part that I was disappointed in. The second part, anytime you have a turnover in special teams, is viewed as bad. When you talk about that really kept them in the game. That gave them the lead.
Touchdown. That was the only touchdown, I think, for the only points for the whole game, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that changed everything in terms of not only did we not score, we ended up, we threw the pick, and then obviously we were able to come back and get a pick 6. But when I think of just those 2 scenarios, I didn't like how that sequence of events played out, and that really put us behind the 8 ball. I didn't like that at all. And then the last part that I was disappointed in was just how our defense allowed the Ravens to run the ball effectively. Yeah, they didn't. It wasn't as
there were a couple drives they looked like Lamar Jackson was running the offense.
Like to me, that was most frustrating because we knew that. And RG3, he could run. We said that he could run, but he's nowhere near Lamar Jackson. So for them to have had the success they did on the ground, I mean, they didn't show signs of slowing down until RG3 pulled his hammy. That was the crazy part. I said, man, if he doesn't get hurt, who knows what it's looking like, because he had already gashed us multiple times, and even Gus Edwards able to have a little bit of success also. So for me, I was very disappointed in that because I thought with Tyson being back out there, obviously Cam Hayward out there, I thought that we would be able to eliminate their running game a lot more. Also with them not having the receiving threats, no Willie Snead, no Mark Andrews, I didn't even think that the passing game would be anything.
Technically, it wasn't. Like, they had 33 yards until McSorley came in. It was
the one pass. The one pass to McSorley, and it was really just a bad break. I mean, you break in front.
I know, man.
And the thing, if you're going to break in front, or you go for the tackle. You can't break behind a guy.
And that's
like
our guy,
that.
Edmonds.
Yeah.
That's the thing that people will look at and say, oh, man, look, Edmonds, it's the same old Edmonds. But like,
we say it's easy to spotlight. If you want to just pick 2 plays, we can go down the list of every player on the roster, and we want to just pick 2 bad plays and try to make a narrative. For some people, they try to do it with Ben. Oh, look at the end zone. Look at the interception in the end zone, man. It's a bag. I'm like, bro, if you watch Ben from start to finish, he had a good game. The drops are what made the stats look worse. The drops are what made the drive stall. So that wasn't a Ben thing, but people will try to spin that narrative as well.
He could have had like 85% completion, easily. Like 350 to 400 yards and like 2 or 3 touchdowns,
Trust me, we're going to talk about that too, because it cost me a little bit of money. But that's for another case. We're going to get to that later on today. But then the last thing in terms of what I was encouraged with, because I said I was surprised, I was disappointed, and the last thing what I was encouraged in was this. Number one, offense. It made the timely plays when they needed to, and they executed down the stretch. You look at the in that fourth quarter, the drive where Juju scores the touchdown, and then you look at the drive where they closed it out with Benny Snell and some of his running. I thought that those particular series in that fourth quarter were the difference in us closing it out. If they got the ball back, who knows what happened? It's a 5-point game. They were just coming off of hitting the big score. Who knows how that whole thing would have played out? So the fact that we were able to keep them off the field and not get another opportunity to even make it interesting, I thought was very effective and very impressive by our offense.
I agree, because actually I was watching the game with my dad, and he was like, man, every time, there's been like 3 or 4 games where it seems like our defense has been on the field at the end of the game to stop it. It'd be nice to just have our offense close out the game, and that's what we ended up doing.
Absolutely. So that was the first thing I was encouraged with. The second thing was that the defense, I mean, number one, they scored again. I mean, you talk about how crazy is that, where we're talking about this defense and how they've consistently been able to create turnovers, consistently been able to generate pressure and sacks, consistently been able to score. I mean, dude, that was another big part, because early on in the game, the offense was stagnant. The offense wasn't able to move how we wanted to. And we already highlighted some of the reasons for that. But to see the defense, Joe Hayden, be able to turn a turnover into points, to see this defense continue to create timely turnovers and big time stops was very impressive. And then the last thing was with the special teams unit. For Boz, number one, you miss a field goal early, but then you come back and you hit everything after that, and we saw every field goal mattered. I mean, the way it ended out, every time he went out there to kick was a big play. It mattered. And then not only the field goal kicking, but also the coverage units. Man, I thought the coverage units, as the game progressed, they did a good job of making sure that they didn't allow any type of big returns. So those are the things I was really encouraged with. So as a whole, it was one of those games where you're going to feel mixed emotions leaving it. Some people might be down on the Steelers. Some people might be high on it. It just depends on how you want to spin it. But I thought it was a very mixed game from an emotional standpoint. And this is what you get when you talk about not having practice. And this is why we always talk about the importance of practice. Drops, timing, tackling. Those 3 things are greatly impacted by practice. You're not going to get that watching film. You're not going to get that being on a Zoom call. The routine of just catching off a jugs machine. You're not getting that at home. When you're talking about tackling, the angles, I thought the secondary struggled a little bit with that yesterday, because the angles are different. You can watch it on tape. We can walk through it. But when you're not out there doing it full speed, the angles are different. And at the NFL level, you only got one time to get the angle right. It's not like college where I took a bad angle, but I'm just that much faster, nigga. I can make up for it. We saw, I mean, even on the touchdown, that was a one-time bad angle, and then, hey, it's too late. Even with Minka down there, it's like,
well, I was going to ask,
one time to be right.
I was going to say, you think he could have made that tackle or not? I just feel like that's a tough scenario for him.
No. I put it like this. If he made it, it would have been a great play. But if you're Hollywood, that guy should never touch you. I look at that scenario.
Especially with his speed.
This is the thing. That scenario is no different than if it's a punt returner and he's in the open field one-on-one against a kicker. Even though that's Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Minka's a great athlete, he's fast and all this other stuff. If you're Marquise Brown one-on-one in open field with Minkah should never touch you. If you're an elite receiver, because we would ask the same thing of AB. We would ask the same thing of Julio, DeAndre Hopkins. So that's what I wanted to see. And it worked out like that. It was unfortunate that it was on Minkah, but the good receivers, they don't get touched. And that's what he did right there. For Minkah, the biggest thing I would say is, you had Vince rushing hard, coming up hard on the inside. I would say just go over top the whole time and make him have to cut back. You saw where Minkah tried to speed turn as if he was anticipating him cutting across the field, and that ultimately was the difference in him making the play or not. But it's a tough situation right there. Yeah. I mean, you could play it where how he did it. You could play it where you just stay front side and hope that Vince is fast enough to get there. Either way, it's going to be a tough scenario. So I didn't hold that against Minkah, but as a whole, I thought the tackling, the angles that were taking place and those things, that's a direct relation to not having practice, man. You saw it not only on our side, we saw it on Baltimore side as well, man. Those things happen, and it's tough. I mean, because you cannot practice tackling virtually. You cannot practice tackling on a walkthrough. You cannot practice tackling without actually practicing. So that's another reason why I guess for me, I wasn't as like over the top one way or the other, because some of those things come into that, man. You need practice. As much as people don't like it, you need it. And we saw that yesterday, man, in all 3 phases.
Well, what's interesting to me, too, is probably the thing that a lot of people are ripping on us about. And I think a lot of fans outside of Pittsburgh, media, whatever, put the Steelers in like a lose-lose situation with this game. Like, we win, like if we win, if we blow them out and everything, it's what you should have done. If it's a game like this, if it's a loss or whatever, you guys suck, like whatever. But here's the thing. I don't think anything about that game is... Let me just go from the offense versus their defense. Like, dude, they still had the full gamut of their secondary. So,
but we did see a lot of them going down, though.
They went down throughout the game. But my thing is, I don't think there's anything that's new news for us with our offense. Because I think, if anything, it's just unfortunate. It's like something like, damn, dude, I really wish we could have got the run game going. Because the people they were missing was on their front seven. So we still couldn't get that going, but I felt like, oh man, we're still going up against these all-pro cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chuck Clark's been a pretty good safety. They have Jimmy Smith out there too. You know, we were able to.
Jimmy went out what, second quarter or third?
Peters went out for a little bit, then he came back in.
Jimmy Smith, I know he left and didn't come back. He had the groin. But a lot of their issues were from not practicing also, man. When you go from sitting at the house for that many days and you come out here and play full speed, like, that happens, bro.
My point is, I still think how our offense moved, controlling the ball, and like I said, and you said, I feel like Ben still had a good game up against that secondary. It's just, man, the running game, like, what do we do now? But that hasn't been new news for us at all. Like, this has been a consistent thing, and now it's like, man, do we do just really what we did against the Ravens here going forward with Ben throwing it like 50 times and trying to use the short passing as the run game and controlling the clock? That's the thing. But that's like not new to the Steeler fan base or anything. We knew this going in, and I don't think that should be looked at as something like, oh, it's so negative. Our running game hasn't been working at all.
See, you say it shouldn't be looked at as negative, and I think you say that because you're a Steeler fan. If you take away that part of it and you say you've been struggling to run the ball and you went up against a front seven that wasn't even at full strength and you still couldn't run the ball, not many people are going to find something positive. But still, Steelers fans will find a positive.
The positive is the passing game, and could this work? I mean, we did. That's what I mean. Okay. We went up against the all-pro cornerbacks in their secondary still, and we were still able to do things, albeit there were the drops. But from what I saw, just like the eye test, like, all right, maybe this could be replicable going forward. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know how you feel, though.
Well, we'll get to that because we got questions anyway, so we'll definitely get to that, man.
I jumped the gun.
Always. It's all good, though.
Okay.
All right, so this first one, though, is from Shiraz Muller. And what Shiraz says is, what do we think went wrong in the red zone other than the drops? So for me, that's actually a good question, too. This goes to what you were just talking about. Why the short passing attack is cool 20-20, but it doesn't work in the red zone, because short passing attack in the open field with our receivers works because as a defense, you can't play that aggressively. You have to be very mindful of the double moves. We know the stop and goes. We know how they'll take a drag and then turn it into a vertical. We've seen that with our receivers. And Baltimore is very smart. Wink Martindale is a very good defensive coordinator. He's been doing this for a long time. He understood that. So you can see how they weren't really jumping on any of the double moves, any of the eye candy stuff. They would let you throw that and they're going to tackle that, right? And they're going to make you have to execute 10, 12 play drives, right? So you can move it down 20-20. You can get all that. But once you get into the red zone and now that vertical threat isn't the same, now we saw where Baltimore played it a lot tougher. Marlon Humphreys, I mean, he was a prime example of that. When you look at the back shoulder throw to James Washington, you look at the slant to, I think it was Chase Claypool. Now, obviously, Deontay, he should have had a touchdown. He dropped it. But you could just see how much tighter they played once the field was condensed. That's the only issue. When you talk about not being able to run the ball, if you can run the ball, now those DBs still have to be very aware of the running game. The safeties have to be aware of that. Right now, in the red zone, they don't worry about the run game, and they literally just play a lot tighter coverage because now you don't have to worry about Claypool running by you. When it's only 20 yards, 10 yards, you're not running by anybody like that. You still got the back of the end line of the end zone as an extra defender. So that's why you have to be a little bit more dynamic offensively. I mean, from a statistical standpoint, you can look at the stat sheet and be like, well, man, you know, this dude was 20 of 30 or 30 or 40. He dinked and dunked them to death. Collinsworth talked about it numerous times, how fast Ben was getting the ball out and why his quarterback rating was lower, because he's technically not throwing the ball downfield. It's more so 2 to 3 yard passes and they're moving it. That's well and good 20-20, but that's not going to equate to points without guys having to make spectacular plays in terms of you getting to 20 and a guy makes somebody miss. Like, you have to rely on that so much more. And as we saw yesterday, when you play against quality defensive backs that can tackle, most of these guys who we talked about typically struggle with tackling. Those guys yesterday, they tackle very well. They're very similar to us on defense. They tackle well. They're very fundamentally sound. When you see that, now you see that, man, we didn't have that luxury of, oh, he's going to make this guy miss. Even the one Ebron drop that he had, that wouldn't have been a touchdown.
It wouldn't have been a guarantee. He would have had to make a miss.
And he was 5 yards out and it was third down. But that's another part of the lack of running game. We don't have to worry about any of that. We're just solely playing small ball and keying on these receivers. That's, to me, is going to be the bigger concern going forward.
I get you. Yep.
Because you'll be able to move the ball. We can definitely move the ball like that. But when it comes to executing when the field gets condensed, that's going to be the big time struggle. We saw that even with the Chiefs a little bit. Difference was the Chiefs still have with Le'Veon Bell and
there's that
and Hilaire.
And they've been more successful at their just one play shots.
Very true.
Throughout the field, like a lot of their touchdowns have come from
further
midfield.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
See, no, I get you, dude. That's actually a really good point because there's sometimes we're in the red zone. It's like, dude, we have like 2 or 3 yards. Like, why not at least just run it and see what happens? But dude,
every time we try to run it in the red zone, it's like a negative play almost.
Outside of that last drive or last 2 drives, we did nothing in the running game.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, the only thing we had was maybe McFarland had a little scat outside for like 4 or 5 yards or whenever we passed it to him.
Right.
I didn't really see much else. Benny Snell had a nice run or 2 here or there, but that was him making the play.
Yes, correct.
Like, he went up. There was that one play he went up to on the right side. Mm-hmm. The gap closed really quick. Then he bounced it outside.
3rd and 3.
Yeah, it looked like that was going to be like
the drive where Juju ends up scoring. If he doesn't make that play, we don't even get to the Juju touchdown.
Yeah, there's still. It goes back to the Jaguars game. Whenever Connor he had some of those nice runs. Mm-hmm. I still don't feel good. I still really don't feel good. But I don't know how you fix that then because our offense was able to move the ball. I feel good about Ben moving the ball within the 20s, like you said, and controlling the clock, using the passes of the run game. But yeah, that could spell some trouble whenever we're talking about red zone. I don't know how you fix that.
Honestly,
it comes down to making some good plays here, there, maybe dialing up some good plays because there were a couple drops.
We saw earlier in the season. We used more of the gimmick style runs to execute in the red zone. When we would see the reverses happening multiple times with Claypool, we would see the 4x1 sets with the screens and stuff like that, where you just try to get numbers and make a play. Right now, I feel like because they've used some of that stuff a lot early on in the season,
trying to mix it up.
Now you got to try to come up with different things because we both said this. If we see Derek White out there on the right, on the left, Claypool on the other side, and they're condensed, we all screaming what? Reverse, reverse, reverse. It's going to be the jet sweep to Claypool. We know if we see 4 receivers on the one side, we're screaming what? It's going to be a screen or they throwing a jump ball fade on the backside to Ebron. That's what they've done so much early. So now you have to figure out new ways, and that's more on Matt Canada and Randy Fichtner trying to get creative. Even though Ben calls plays at the line of scrimmage and things like that, he's not going to be able to get creative like that on the fly. Like that takes practice. That takes us being in here. We all come up with a plan together. And that's another reason why we talked about a little bit, just when you become so one dimensional and just allow one guy to call these plays up and down the field, it's certain things you're not going to be able to call at the line of scrimmage. It's certain things you have to huddle up. It's certain things you have to get the right personnel out there for. And that is another reason why they've struggled a little bit when it comes to some of that red zone stuff right now, man.
We'll see what happens, dude. We'll see what happens because I really have no confidence in the run game at all right now.
It's tough right now.
I just feel like this is going to have to be the offense and what it is, which I'm good with despite the red zone problems. Hopefully we can fix that. That's all.
I like it, man. But that was a good question by Shiraz. All right, so this next one is by JP. Thoughts on Bud Dupree tearing his ACL? Devastated. That hurts, man. That's my dog. That's my brother, man. Been with him since he got here. Love watching his development. It's very unfortunate because it's a contract year as well. It's a franchise tag. This is another reason why players really don't want to play on franchise tags. This is another reason why, when we talk about the different scenarios of different players who decide to hold out and stuff, this is why. As great as a year as Bud was having, him tearing his ACL in December, he's still going to get paid without a doubt, but...
See if 10? Is he double digits?
I think he's right at 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so the thing is this, he's still going to get paid, but it's going to be less than what he could have got if he's fully healthy a full season. Who knows what else he was going to be able to accomplish this year from a sack standpoint,
definitely
potentially Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So, it's very unfortunate. For him, it sucks in a major way. And then for the team, it sucks just because you're losing a Pro Bowl caliber player, a double-digit sack guy who was having another crazy season and really helping with that whole front and that dynamic of why they are so good right now. So, it sucks in a big way. Devastated for my dog, man. Hurts.
No, definitely. We texted about this yesterday. Yeah. You said everything I said. It's just a lose-lose for everyone. It just sucks for everyone. But Dupree with his contract and everything coming up, and then the Steelers, man, we lose a Pro Bowler. Him and TJ Watt were the best pass rush duo in the league.
No, they were, yeah.
Big contributing factor too. Obviously getting to the quarterback and stuff, but I'm sure he's been big in the run game. You saw him yesterday.
Absolutely,
there's a couple big stops that he had. Yeah. So it just sucks, dude. That really blows.
That's a major piece, man, on that defense. Then that's definitely gonna hurt, bro. Definitely gonna hurt. That was a good question though, JP. Actually, it's not a good question, man, because now I'm sad. Thanks a lot, JP, for making me sad. Jeez. All right. Oh, well, you know what? I'm gonna flip flop these because this actually kind of piggybacks on what he just asked. So this is from Shelton Stacy, aka the Kid Stacy. His exclamation points I had to elevate right there.
The Kid.
The Kid. All right, so my question for the best podcast in the world.
Whoa.
Shout out. Okay. So my question for the best podcast in the world is, can we call James Harrison out of retirement to help replace Dupree? Actually, I kind of like that. I like that because he works out every day. We know this. We know Debo. Debo's like the old war tank, man. He work out 1,000 times a day. He's always posting. He always looks big and buff. So technically, yeah, you can call him. I mean, I'm sure he is in game shape, whatever that may be at this standpoint. For me personally, though, I'm confident in Alex Highsmith and Ola Adeniyi. I love what them two have been putting on tape. When you watch just the coaching staff and the situations they're putting both of those guys in, they trust them both. And I feel like they trust them both equally because it's not as if Highsmith plays so much more than Adeniyi, or it's not as if they put Highsmith out there in very high pressure situations in Ola. They don't. They flip-flop them. I'm not sure how they rotate them, but literally when Bud went down, Ola was the first guy in. But then I want to say a series or two later, then it was Alex Highsmith who was out there for the rest. So it's just, I don't really know the dynamic of how they rotate them, but throughout the game, you see both of those guys out there. Both of those players are playing both defense and special teams. So for me personally, I like them two guys because number one, they're a lot younger and more athletic. I just feel like you stunt their growth if you bring in a guy like James because
how old is he right now? Is he like 41, 42?
I don't really know. But with James, I never really cared about his age because even when he came back, he still was out playing people.
Like this would be the perfect situation too. Like week, 12 or 13 for a late season run just for that burst.
For me, the only reason I say I think it could potentially stunt their growth is just being in the locker room and seeing the dynamic of some of the younger players once James was there. And if a younger player makes a mistake, they're constantly looking over their shoulder now because you got James, who is a very proven, very decorated guy. Yeah. So even with that, it makes them play a little bit tighter. And then obviously, what's the dynamic if it works out where these younger guys are playing well, but now James isn't getting these opportunities? We remember last time what happened with him and TJ when he wasn't getting the opportunities and how that kind of went south and things like that. So that's my only concern when we're talking about James, particularly coming back out for this. I think with Highsmith and Adeniyi, we're good. And then you still got Tazar Skipper, if I remember correctly. Or no, did he get signed?
I don't know.
Oh, man, he might have got picked up.
He's on the Madden roster. That was in the beginning of the season. I don't know what happened.
I got to check. Because I know Wisniewski, he got picked up by Kansas City last week off our practice squad. Stefan Wisniewski. So he got picked up by the Chiefs.
Is that what happened? I thought we just cut him.
No. Because he was on the practice squad and literally, because this would have been right, or it was either before our game got postponed or after, but the Chiefs ended up just signing him off of the practice squad roster. And that was a big thing because obviously he was with them last year when they went to the Super Bowl. He actually started for them during the playoffs. So I got to check with Tazar. He might still be there. I'm not sure as it stands right now, though.
Okay.
But for me, man, I just think that with Highsmith and Adeniyi, I think you roll with those guys, man. I think you make it happen.
Hey, man, Tyson's fighting at 50-something, you know?
Hey, man, you never know, bro.
I think I saw that floated around a little bit post-game about bringing Harrison back. I didn't really think much of it. I just thought of it more as a joke. So
I mean, it's not the first time he's come out of retirement.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, dude, I'm not going to lie. It'd be a cool story. It would hype us up a lot. It would. I don't know. I think I'm good with Highsmith and Adeniyi.
After seeing all those commercials of Debo tackling that man, every time he tackles him, so I did kind of. I used to text him every time I saw the commercial, and then I started realizing how many times I see this commercial. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of out of control. I'm gonna chill out a little bit, but every time I see it, I get hyped, and I'm like, yo, and I know he's getting paid, so I'm like, yo, play it again. My kids, they get crazy, like, Dad, why you get hyper? I'm like, yo, that's my dog. Like, he making a play. I want to see him tackle this dude every time, and I act like I've never seen the commercial. So just seeing that, it gives me the nostalgia, and I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe he can come back and do that. I don't need him in coverage. I just need him in obvious pass situations so he can rush the passer. That's all I need. He gonna drop that platinum rip and hook and curl, and he gonna do what he does. Like that move, he could do that at 90, I feel. We don't need him to run around. I don't want him in coverage. You know, they highlighted TJ wheeling up with Hollywood Bryans today. I don't need that from Debo. I don't need none of that. You know, we talked about Highsmith walking out on number 2, playing good coverage. I don't need any of that from Debo. If Debo were to return, though, I just need you on anything 3rd and 7 or longer. Put my man out there, and he's good.
You imagine if the fans were in the stadium?
Oh, it'd be nuts.
Dude.
It would be nuts. It would be nuts. Black visor, you know how Debo looked too with the...
Having him come out, yeah, people would go crazy.
I mean, for me, dude, he was one of my favorite players, bro. Like,
he was awesome.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, he was awesome. It would be cool. It would definitely be cool. I wouldn't be against it, but I didn't really take that seriously.
I don't think we need it. I personally, like I said, I love the group we have right now, especially after seeing Highsmith and Adaney multiple times now. If we hadn't seen any of those two players at all this season on defense, I'm singing a totally different tune. I'm over here like, yes, we need to look to bring somebody in, kind of like when Devin went down, right? Because we didn't see Spillane on defense, so it was kind of like, well, man, maybe we do need to make a move. With Highsmith and Adaney, we've seen them numerous times this year. We've seen them make plays this year. So I feel very confident in either one of those guys. And they're going to use a combination of both, I personally feel. Kind
of like Spillane, Williamson, Marcus Allen, that type of thing.
They're going to do a situation like that. And I think they're going to be fine, bro.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't really know what else we have really for... Is there any questions with Highsmith at all? Because I think the main thing is like, what's your confidence level in that combo? Should we bring in anyone? But I think that answers everything, right?
Yeah, it does, man. I'm very confident in both of those guys. Actually, there's one of these questions. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but kind of not, but we'll get to it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that as a whole, though, man, those two guys, number one, they are very athletic. Ola and Alex, they can run. They have pass rush moves. They play fast. Those, are things that I really like. But then the other things that I like, oh man, I had to burp.
No, you good.
I saw with that I've seen with Highsmith multiple times now on tape is when he's in coverage, he's a very smart player. We talk about even if you're at a disadvantage, you want to never lose to your leverage, and you want to be competitive away from your leverage. When I watch Highsmith in coverage, he doesn't get beat to his leverage side, and he's competitive when it's away from his leverage side. That to me, if I'm getting that from you in coverage as an outside linebacker, that's a win. I'm good with that. But then when you see him rush the passer, him and Olu, even when they came in yesterday, they provided spark. They were giving good rushes off the edge. Now, granted, we know that they're going to see a lot better left tackles than what was out there yesterday. But as a whole, I thought that when they had the opportunities, they played well. So I'm definitely confident in those two guys going forward. The rotation of I don't necessarily want to see either one of them take on the role of Bud, where Bud is out there 95% of the time. He only comes out for a breather. I don't want to see that from neither one of them. But depending on if it's a 50-50, 60-40, however you want to split it, I think them in that situation can be very productive.
Cool. That works for me too. Yeah.
So shout out to the kid, Stacy. Yeah. All right. So this next one we have is from Parker B. And what Parker says is, why does the Steelers offense never really start strong besides the Titans game? I think for me, what I always see is a rhythm thing. With Ben in particular, he is a very rhythmic passer. We see once he gets going, he gets going. But we've also seen when he struggles a little bit, it takes some time for him to get going and stuff like that and ultimately start to execute. I feel like that's just the biggest thing from the offensive standpoint. And then obviously yesterday you have the drops. The drops were huge. But early on, and we've talked about this now for a couple of weeks, with our offense, the short passing attack works really well. We see that they have a lot of success moving the ball. But in terms of the explosiveness that we're accustomed to seeing right now, we said if they don't connect on the deep ball or draw a flag, they really don't provide a lot in that standpoint consistently. That's, I think, is the biggest difference too when we talk about the Chiefs. They're not relying upon the penalties. They connect on those plays. Whereas yesterday we saw, I mean, we were praying for the penalty. I mean, the one was on Marlon Humphrey, and we both kind of said that I didn't think it was a good call at all, man.
You know, I'm good with it. Yeah, is it 50-50? It goes in our favor, whatever.
But to me, that's the thing with this offense. It's like I don't see them just flat out kill guys downfield right now. We see them either it connects and it's like, all right, it connected this week and then we got to wait 2 more weeks for it to connect again, or we get a ton of downfield PI penalties, which helps us a ton. And then from there, we're able to get going. But to me, that doesn't really spark consistency from a downfield passing attack. And I think that the rest of it, when you talk about just when you're going that short to intermediate passing that we see them do successfully, that's rhythm. So if your rhythm is off early on, that's going to hinder that from happening. And we already talked about how the downfield passing, with the issues with that are.
Now, I'm curious about this because we have been doing the quick passes and stuff, and we've talked about how clean Ben has been this whole year. Do you think that's out of necessity as opposed to us just not doing it? From the line standpoint, do you think they would be on us a little bit more if we weren't doing this short stuff?
I honestly think it's a mix of both. I think Ben has transitioned to that because he does see that with the protection at times, and we said early on, especially at times, it was a little bit leaky, and then you obviously were mixing and matching with some of the injuries. So you do that to combat it. So that was part of that. But then the other part was, if you know you have guys like Deontay, who we highlighted all offseason, we said you want to get him the ball early because he's a guy that makes you miss. We're not necessarily, he can give you downfield plays, but I feel like his bread and butter is you get him the ball 2-3 yards away from the line of scrimmage, just let him make a guy miss and just be athletic, whether it's a stop route, whether it's a screen, whether it's a drag. When he's getting the ball like that, we're all excited because we just know how dynamic he is. So I think that's another reason why. And then with Juju, you think about with him, right? We say Juju's not a blazer, but you work him short at the intermediate. That's where you want to work with him at. And that's another part of why you get the ball off fast. You're not worrying about Juju running a 20 or 30 yard vertical or 7. It's like, nah, let me get him, it's a matchup on a linebacker, a matchup on a smaller DB. Let me throw a jump ball to him 5-7 yards downfield, let him catch it, make something happen afterwards. So I think all of those things have played into why they get rid of the ball in terms of Ben getting rid of the ball so fast. But that's why it works though, because their personnel matches that, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on that. No. Yeah, I think you answered it perfectly. I gave my little insight, but yeah.
I like it, man. I like it. Oh man, we did kind of step on this question, so we'll skip over that one. I didn't even think about it.
What?
No, it was because that's about Highsmith, but I'm like, we technically already.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we got it all.
But we have 2 left. This one is from Flavio Gutierrez. Like my Spanish right there. So you heard that. Gutierrez. Yeah. My 6th grade Spanish teacher be happy right now. But what Flavio says is, what did you think about Anthony McFarland's performance?
I got nothing against it. I mean, how many passes did he get? He got 1 or 2?
Yeah, because
I think it might have
1 or 2
it might have just
the rest
been
was
one.
Just the handoffs, yeah.
I don't think there was any negative plays that he had, really. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think he was in that much, or we really committed to the run that much to get a full sample to have a harsh grade or not. I thought he played good whenever he was in.
Yeah, I thought he produced when he had the opportunities. The thing that he was playing a lot, but he wasn't targeted as much. They would go to empty, and he would typically be the number 1 receiver to the short side. And we did see him have success. I think it was Elliott he made miss. He ended up getting a first down on. As a whole, though, I mean, he still plays with the same speed we've seen even from him at Maryland. I mean, you see that. You see his elusiveness and things like that. I just don't think that he's the feature when he's on the field. I feel like when James is out there, even when Benny is out there, they are doing things to get them involved. Whereas with Anthony, I feel like Anthony is more so all right, everything else didn't work, we'll give you opportunity now. I think that's ultimately like what I've been feeling about McFarland throughout the season. I think that when he's gotten opportunities, he has done some good things. Yesterday, I mean, I thought he made some stuff happen when he did get the ball in his hands, because it wasn't like he had a lot of time, especially on the run plays. Like, the line was back a little bit.
Yeah, they got like 3 or 4 yards. Yeah.
But I just like I like number 1, the ball security. That was the first thing, because bro, that's going to the receivers, Deontay and Juju with those fumbles. Marlon Humphrey again. Marlon Humphrey like he's Peanut Tillman right now when he plays us, bro. It's crazy.
It's on Juju too. What? What's so funny?
No. It's there. We'll talk about it later, bro. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, Marlon Humphreys, man, he finds ways to continue to get the ball out with those guys, man. So I was definitely impressed with McFarland's ball security. I'm glad that he didn't put the ball on the ground.
Snell too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I thought that as a whole, McFarland did well from that standpoint. I don't think he did enough that is going to move him up or down the depth chart. I didn't get that. I didn't get that from Benny either. I thought Benny played well as well, Benny Snow. But I didn't think it was enough that we're going to sit here and, oh, man, I think he should be the starter next week over James Conner. I didn't get that from Benny either. I thought he did some good things. But compared to James' last performance against Jacksonville, I don't think Benny did enough to make us forget that. So that's my whole scenario right there, man.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. I think it's going to take like 150, 200 yards from one of those guys to actually have the conversation. And even that, could it be a 50-50 going forward? But obviously that didn't happen. I
mean, we thought it should have happened. We definitely thought it should have happened.
That's what I mean. I guess
that to me was so frustrating.
That's what I mean. Going back to what I was saying about like, man, we didn't learn anything new, or this isn't really surprising to the Steelers. We were hoping for it, but then I think it just really hit that low point of like, bro, I guess this running game's never happening.
For me, man, the two things that I was hoping for that didn't play out how I wanted them to. Number one, I wanted to see our offense with Ben, and we talked about this, just come out guns blazing, take full advantage of him. We didn't really see that. Now, we talked about some of the stuff with drops. Obviously, the interception in the end zone didn't help. But that part, I definitely thought we should have been able to do a lot more. And I didn't even care that they have their quote-unquote all-pros, because we didn't care last time. What did we say last time we played Baltimore? We didn't say we should come out here and run the ball. We said, no, you take advantage of Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. We said Marcus Peters, he's very handsy, he's very eyesy. He likes to look in the backfield. You throw at that. We said with Marlon is a very physical corner, but he does get a lot of pass interferences down the field. We never said we should shy away from that. So for me, I didn't look at it as, oh, well, their DBs all pros, they did their job. Like, I still thought we had a clear advantage there. So that was very frustrating. And then the running game, man, not being able to run on that defense with the people they had out, bro, that's frustrating, man.
Mm-hmm. I think with the Ben thing and the passing, for me, is it was a good game and everything. And yeah, I think that's what should have happened. I just think it's better than all the negativity that's coming to the Steelers and maybe the offense. That's all. I think that's like the silver line. Like, look, we're still playing some really good starters, all pros, and I think his stats could have been, like I said earlier, like 80%, over 300 yards, couple touchdowns.
I just look at it like this: is a difference between always relying on silver lining versus critiquing and being critical. Because if you always go silver lining, then you fall into the line of codding, right? It's kind of like you got that kid who always makes mistakes, and instead of correcting what they're making a mistake for, because you care about them so much, you're just like, well, at least you didn't break anything. You didn't break anything. And then when they finally do break it, it's like, well, we could have addressed this 10 weeks ago, but we waited this long because we wanted to be gentle with them. That to me is the only issue when we constantly talk silver lining with the offense. You fall into that trap of, well, we got by. Well, it didn't cost us.
Maybe it's just me being a little defensive for Ben. Maybe that's it. But yeah, I think what played into that is some of the drops. Yeah. That's kind of my thing.
It's cool, but
I'll admit that. But still.
Yeah. But you see how you've talked receivers, talked the drops. That's what I'm saying though, man. You sometimes you do have to get a little bit critical. Otherwise, you will never address it until it bites you in the butt. That's the biggest thing.
That's what I mean. On who, Ben or the offense?
Just everyone, honestly, everyone.
The pick was bad. I mean, although I will say, everyone, I'll do my silver lining for that though. It was fourth down anyway. I mean, the worst thing that would have happened is a pick six.
It's cool. It's caught.
Yeah, but you just would have thrown it away anyway.
It's caught. It's cool, bro.
No, I get
we trust. We're not doing Big Ben today. We're not doing that.
I get it, though. We're not doing that. I just think it would have been thrown away anyway. Worst thing would have happened is pick six. That didn't happen. He tackled him at the 5.
So
I thought it was a good game.
So anywho, man, this last question we have right here is from Joel. Oh, I'm sorry to say this. Nanadovich. Yeah, Joel Nanadovich. Shout out to Joe Nanadovich. Will the defense be different, or will the defense be much different without Bud Dupree? And Joel is hitting us up from Australia. So shout out to Australia, man. Shout out to Joel on that question. But will the defense be much different without Bud Dupree? I think it will. Just because you're talking about a guy who was generating a ton of pressure. He was winning at a high rate. We talked about, just his impact. Him being out there, you legit had to say, we cannot slide our protection to TJ. We cannot leave Bud one-on-one. He was winning those consistently. When you talk about Alex Highsmith and Oladeni replacing that, they're going to have success. They're not going to be able to do it to the level that Bud was doing it, though. At least they haven't shown that just yet. Now, they could come out here and be like Robert Spillane, where they're just playing out of their mind. Cool. But we haven't seen that from them just yet. And with Bud, we know for a fact that he's been playing crazy all season. I mean, even when you date back to last season, he has been, I feel like, one of the key reasons as to why our defense has been so good. TJ, we know with TJ, he's been down since he's got here, but he generates a ton of attention. Once Bud was able to start dominating the way he did, that opened it back up for TJ as well. And not only TJ, but for Cam and for Tuitt and some of these linebackers on the inside as well, man. So you're definitely going to feel that loss until Highsmith or Adaney shows that they can generate the same type of attention that Bud was generating.
It's just a bummer. It just really is. I think our defense will still be fine, but man, that was one of the things that we're talking about. It's one of our strengths of, if we are playing the Chiefs or playing some of these.
Being able to just rush.
Even Josh Allen, just some of the better teams in the league with better quarterbacks, like being able to get to them. That's one of our strengths, especially with TJ and Bud. And
the fact he was doing it from the blind side as well. Like when you get a guy that's a bona fide, he's dominating left tackles the way Bud had been able to do these past 2 years. That's hard to find, man. That is very hard to find. That's the reason why he was a first-round draft pick. That's the reason why when you talk about some of the great edge rushers, the guys who do it consistently and against the left tackle, who we know, I mean, outside of the quarterback, is the second highest paid guy sometimes on the team. Like, to see him being able to do that consistently, man, that's going to take a lot to see if Highsmith and Adaney can do that. Because if they were doing that in practice, then they would have been out there. But we know that hasn't been the case necessarily to this point compared to Bud. So we're going to see, man, what they can do with this opportunity. It's a great opportunity for those two guys, though, man. You talk about young edge rushers, last couple games of the regular season, then playoff run. You want to make a name for yourself. Think about Lamar Willie. Now granted, he was out there for the whole season, but yeah. And you see the Highsmith with the 5'6", but he's like, bro, when that playoff run started, man, he was going crazy. Him and Debo were doing special things. This your opportunity right here, man. Make a name for yourself, baby.
Yeah. Is that it for the questions?
That was, man. It was good, man.
Hot topics.
Oh, what you got?
Because we're gonna do the next week preview. Correct?
Absolutely, man.
Okay,
yes,
but I got a couple hot topics before we get into that. So I guess we'll do the hot topics and we do that and then we're kind of done, right? Okay. Hot topics. I got two.
Here we go.
The one is pretty simple. We had a new starter on the offensive line yesterday.
Shout out to JC. I'll let you drop the last name.
No, I have no clue. I was just going to call him JC.
I'm calling him JC. I'm not even about to butcher that name today.
Yeah, JC, that's all. How do you do it? What do you think? I mean, obviously we couldn't really get anything going in the run game. That's a tough position just to analyze. Like, I think it's easier just to even go left tackle, right tackle. They're more isolated. But a center, I don't know. What were you saying?
No, number one, I thought he got the snaps back there consistently. That was the most important part because we saw even last year between Pouncey and at times with, I think BJ Finney had some opportunities as well. We saw where the snap was not a guarantee. I mean, it even cost us points last year at times. We think about that Rams game. So, number one, that was the first thing. We didn't see a ball on the ground. We didn't see a fumble snap. I thought that was great on his part. I mean, you think about it. Dude found out he was going to be starting 2-3 hours before the game. Like, they told
it was, I texted you that. Yeah,
absolutely. So, it wasn't like he had multiple time to prepare, multiple time to think about this thing. It was kind of like, oh, man, we probably pulling up to this. Honestly, as players, you pull up to the stadium typically 2 to 3 hours before the kickoff. So he might have been pulling in when he found that thing out, but that's the crazy part of it. So for me, I thought he played well from a protection standpoint, from a passing protection standpoint, outside of the one inside pressure where I think Collinsworth highlighted where Ben ended up getting a shot. That might have been by Bowser, maybe either Bowser or one of the smaller interior, one of the small safeties blitzing on the inside. Outside of that, I thought that he communicated well. I thought that he passed off the stunts they were trying to do on him from an interior lineman standpoint. I thought he played well for him, for that to be his start. And you find out 2 hours before kickoff, you don't put a ball on the ground from a snap standpoint, and you communicate well from a pass protection standpoint. We never saw him get beat. Now, running game is different. Running game, the whole offensive line struggled. It's not just JC, but he did struggle from that standpoint. But outside of that, if we knew the O-line struggled from a running game standpoint anyways, I don't hold that against him. But what he did do well was he snapped the ball well, protected Ben well. So for me, man, if you find out you starting a couple hours for the game, that's a win to me. I ain't tripping. I'm not.
Actually, I got an extra hot topic one, actually.
What we got?
It's PFF disrespecting Chooks. Did you see that?
Bro, I haven't. I don't like the whole PFF thing because for me, this is a big issue, right? So you talked about the All-Pro secondary that the Ravens have, right? Yeah. Now, if we were talking about just corners in terms of how would you rate them, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters,
that's probably a top duo in the league.
Top duo in the league, right? You would think. You realize for PFF, They had Jimmy Smith rated higher than both of those guys, bro.
I didn't notice that.
Yes, absolutely.
I was just looking at our guys.
I know you did. I know you did. They had Jimmy Smith rated higher than both of those guys. They had Vince Williams rated higher as an inside linebacker than Bud Dupree at an edge rusher. They had
they had Bud Dupree's rating low. I remember mentioning that earlier. Yeah,
absolutely.
Way back.
And I want to say, was it?
They have TJ rated as number one.
TJ was number one. I want to say Cam was. Because I know Tyson was rated higher than Cam as well. Tyson was like the number one like nose tackle that they had. I'm like, all right. I don't. But you already know how I don't really rock with PFF like that, bro.
Well, they had Chooks as like the last right tackle. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I was surprised because we've talked about him how many times.
They had Jimmy Smith
being underrated.
Jimmy Smith was rated as the 8th rated corner on PFF yesterday
in the league.
Okay. I have an issue with that, bro. I don't care.
He's doing more slot corner
now.
Stuff
He
too.
is, but I don't care. I don't care if he's a slot or outside corner. If we're talking corners, because that's how they didn't rate him just as this is the best slot. They had him in that big pool with everyone else. That's an issue to me. Jimmy Smith, he's been doing it for a long time. What I think it's 10, 11 years from now. Yeah, they showed
10 years.
But Jimmy Smith isn't a top 5 corner at this stage in his career. He's not. He's not better than Marlon Humphrey or Marcus Peters. But for him to be rated that high compared to those guys, I have an issue with PFF. and that's, it just shows. I'm like, bro, there's no way you're going to have that guy rated like that. There's no way you're going to have Vince rated as high as he is and Bud rated as low as Bud is. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's why I don't really care for PFF like that.
So you don't even need to talk about Chooks. You could just talk about the inconsistencies.
Yeah, I don't. When you have a lot of... I'm not going on PFF today, bro. I'm not.
Okay.
I just feel like it's a little bit difficult to grade some of the things that they try to grade without the information that's needed. That to me is the biggest thing, man.
Hey, I guess you do your best. You watch the game, you analyze it, but yeah, that's probably not right from an objective standpoint.
Because if I'm asking you to grade me on my technique, but you don't know the technique I'm taught to play, how do you grade that? You don't know.
You have your own little personal spin on it.
So you're going to think that I'm supposed to do it this way. I could be doing it the exact way I'm supposed to be doing it and grade out 100% with my team. But you could look at it and say, well, I saw this guy in LA do it this way, and that's the way I think you're supposed to do it. So I'm going to give you a 0 for that. Like, I have an issue with that. That doesn't make sense to me, you know? So that's the biggest reason why I never really rock with PFF like that, bro.
Understood.
But people like it, though. And I know people say, well, NFL teams pay for it, and that's all well and good. But I can tell you from my personal experiences with these teams and these scouts, when it comes to the people that they want on the field, we're not having conversations about what PFF is ranking. We're not. If anything, they use the PFF information almost from an analytical standpoint to see, okay, because they do some stuff where they break down, okay, well, this guy at 5-yard passing, 10-yard passing, or 15 yards, like this how they have defended, or this the pass that they've caught. That information is good. But the whole ranking system, they're not going off of that when it comes to the actual games. Because that's the narrative that people try to spin when you get on PFF. Well, the teams are paying for it. The teams are paying for it. There's a lot of things the teams pay for that don't do anything, don't mean anything. And a lot of times we even would say y'all wasting your money. But that's for another debate. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that whole PFF rating for Chooks, man.
What it's good for is when your guy is ranked on top of the list for them.
That's about it.
And then what else it's good for is if your guy's getting disrespected, you argue about it. That's what it's good for. You get upset.
That's about it, bro.
For debates and media stuff. Yeah.
I don't waste my time with PFF, man. People love it though. So, and I understand why, because if you're not trained the way, like, because for me as a guy who's been around the game,
you're going
for
off
so long,
someone that's watching like every player, so it's like something to go off of at least.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, for people that don't for people that don't understand how to watch film, or people that haven't played the game at a high level, it's hard to evaluate some of these positions. It's not, quarterback is a lot easier because you can look at completion percentages, attempts, yards, touchdowns, interceptions. With receivers, you can look at, okay, catches, yards, touchdowns, stuff like that. But when you start talking about some of these other positions, you have to get a little bit more in detail and in depth. And if you don't have the eye to actually know what it's supposed to look like, then your best way to evaluate and compare and contrast is to go off of the analytical approach. And that's what PFF does. So
some type of standard.
Correct. Yeah. So for the people that don't have the eye and don't have the full understanding, that works for them perfectly. But for the guys that understand it and see it and know how it's actually supposed to operate, it's a very flawed system. And that's why the football guys, we sometimes have issues with it.
This was our first game. I think this is why I'm bringing it up. This was our first game being on NBC, correct?
Yes,
wow,
correct.
It's been this long, dude.
Yeah.
It's been this long.
They hit you with the Sunday Night Football Wednesday edition. It's like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, because we had just a bunch of 1 o'clock games, a couple fours thrown in there.
And we had Monday night.
Yeah.
But no
this
Sunday
night. This is the first
nights,
one. Then we got the Bills, though, coming up, right?
Correct.
We got the Monday night.
Yeah.
It's nice. We get the extra primetime game here.
And I'm glad it's at 5 o'clock, too. I think it's at 5:40.
It's at 5.
Is it 5 or 5? No, it's at 5 because we were 3:40 yesterday, so it's at 5 o'clock. So I like that too, man. I said, man, it's early enough where I'm gonna enjoy it. I'll be fully sauced up. Game will be good, and then it won't be midnight when the game's over. So I like that.
See,
man.
This would be a seamless transition into the game preview. I got one more hot topic though.
Well, and I'm glad you do because it's not going to be time for that transition just yet. We still got other stuff to talk about. It's all good though, but it's cool, man.
Some
keep
stuff
driving.
that
keep
happened this
driving.
weekend.
Keep
right?
trying to drive it. It's cool, man.
Okay. James Washington.
What your thoughts on him, man?
Well, no, everyone's saying he needs to get the ball more now.
Yeah.
I think it's based off that last catch, really. And probably based off Collinsworth, what he was saying. He talked to Ben, and Ben said, man, if I have one deep shot or I have one combat catch that needs to be made, I'm going to James Washington. I feel really confident in him. But I think a lot of people were saying, and a lot of people said for our game ball, we didn't include him in our game ball post, right? That, James Washington, we need to get him the ball more. He's the only short-handed player. I feel like, well, I'll let you go first.
No, you already going, man. You already said you feel like. Go ahead.
I just feel like it was a combination of everything going on. It was like what would you say, a storm, the storm all coming together where we saw our other guys dropping it. He made the clutch catch at the end of the game. So I think that's really what it is. I think if we were to have James Washington out on the field more, there'd be a reason for it up to this point. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not opposed to it if you feel more confident in him. But
I already told you I feel about James. I said it a couple weeks ago, and it shows once again. I mean, he catches the ball, he gets open. I like his game. And he plays a lot. It's not as if he's not on the field. It's the targets. He's not getting a ton of targets. So that's why even when you made the statement, like if he was going to be out there more before a reason, that's misleading because he is out there. Like Ray McCall is a guy who's not out there as much, but when he is out there, he's more like specialized, so he gets highlighted. James plays a good amount of snaps. It's just when you have the plethora of options that they have, it's hard to. I mean, everybody can't get double-digit targets. You just can't, and that's a part of his issue right now. Juju and Deontay, well, really more Deontay, but both of those guys typically dominate the targets, and from there, you go Claypool because they have some specialized stuff from him. And then James kind of gets the leftovers after Ebron. So he doesn't have a lot of opportunities. But what I do like is that he capitalizes every time he gets an opportunity. That catch on third down, we've been through it up. Shout out to Dan. Now, I always get on my man Dan Orlowski, man. Okay. So I've gotten on him before in the past, man, for some of the stuff.
Did he break this down?
No, he did, man. He did a good job too, man. Just talking about why the throw itself wasn't a good throw, but the decision was a good decision. When he broke it down, man, I thought he did a good job of just talking about the information that was gathered pre-snap with the pre-snap motion and the communication, letting Ben know that would be the highest percentage throw. Now, the throw itself, we all agree it was a terrible throw itself. The little lollipop up there, it ended up being a completion, so it worked out.
Well, I'm actually curious about what was bad about the throw? Because you could see it, like it dropped right in there between the three people and everything.
The thing is this, man, you do that consistently, it's going to get picked off.
No, I'm sure.
You can leave it at that.
I'm sure, because when he started, you're like, oh no. I understand that.
The only reason we're calm with it and okay with it because it was a completion. If it's not a completion, we're not talking like that. So I know the narrative is easy to make it like that for Ben, but that's not a Ben thing. Ben did great pre-snap. The thought of that throw in terms of knowing where to go with the ball was great pre-snap. Everything Ben did pre-snap was amazing. With him moving the guy back and forth, him being able to identify on the fly where the pressure would be coming from, where the highest percentage pass would be. All of that was good. The pass itself, though, you're not going to throw lollipop, just air balls like that and just say, oh, man, well, we always going to get a guy to come down with it. No. And I know you want to get up here and try to defend Ben for that, but you'll be lying to yourself. That's my only thing, man.
Well, hold on. What did I want to say? Well, he said the whole thing, like, I trusted James Washington to make the play. That's why I threw it, which I really liked. It got me hyped up and stuff. But my question then is, what made the actual throw bad? Like, what else should he have done then?
This is the thing. So what made the throw bad was the fact that it wasn't a velocity. It was just kind of up there and hung around. If you got your secondary, let's be real about this. How many times do you think that perfect scenario right there, how that played out? If you do that 10 times, do you think it works like that every time? I don't. I think that's probably 1 or 2 times where it does work like that, and the other 8, it gets intercepted. So for me, we can point to that and say, well, it worked out, right? What was so bad about it? You play that play 10 plays, and we can run the percentages of it, and that's the part that's bad about it. It's no different. Anytime you have a good or bad throw, we critique it that way. We say, if you make this play 10 times, what are the odds of it happening successfully? If it's more times than not, it's good. If it's the other way, it's bad. It's that simple in terms of how us as football players evaluate. Like, I know fans and media personnel, they try to paint a different picture because of the narratives, but with us, it's all about percentages. I like certain plays that are high percentage because if we do this 10 times, I can rely and bank on this working more times than not. If it's the other way, that's not good. That's low percentage. That's more luck based, and luck in football runs out. So that's why we talk about it being a good throw versus a bad throw.
No, 100%. I would be lying if I didn't say, like, when it was up in the air, I'm like, but then it came down with everything, then I'm pumped and stuff. I think the thing you mentioned, fans and stuff, is if that throws happen with Rodgers or Mahomes, any of these other quarterbacks, I feel like the media is like, oh man, look at this, he dropped it in there, clutch play and stuff. Whereas like with this, like
even last week, and I'm with you. Media will say that, but even last week when we came in here, what did I say about Mahomes?
You said he made a lot of bad throws.
If you watch Mahomes is doing terrible things with that ball. The thing is, though, it's working out for them somehow, some way. Sometimes it's luck, and sometimes, like you said, if you throw that 10 times, that might have been the 1 or 2 times where it worked out for them. But some of the stuff that he does is terrible. You would not teach your high school quarterback to do that. But like I said, it works out, and you can spin the narrative how you want to spin it. And that's what I say that all the time too. I'm like, you can make it into this, oh, he's just so elite and that's why it works. You can spin it to where it's lucky. You can spin it to where that's not a good throw, depending on what you're trying to go with that. For me, I'm just always based on just calling it like I see it and just saying, look, if you do that 10 times, what are the odds of that being more successful than not successful? And then for me, that's how I make it just cut and dry like that. So I don't ever have to worry about if it this player or is it that player. Do I like this guy more than I like that guy? It takes that feeling out of it. It makes it just simple. I'm drawing a blank on the word, man. Just in terms of being unbiased, just this is what it is. That's how we can, make it a simple grading scale for me.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I guess here's the thing. Sometimes for that luck or just that one play to happen, it is like going outside of the percentages for it to. And
it's an outlier. I mean, it's no different than Eli Manning, the throw that he made to David Tyree, like the helmet catch. You throw that 10 times, it's getting picked 9.
Throw, the decision, all that stuff needs to happen for the play to happen, and for you to talk about it and say, oh man, that ended up being a good throw, even though at the time you're like, oh shit, but like, oh yeah, like that dropped right in his hands. James Washington made a great catch. We ended up winning the game. But yeah, like you said, man, if this is thrown 7 out of 10 times is a different story. Is it incomplete? Whatever it is. But so definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna say that would have been, we would have lost off of that, because they still would have had to execute and score a touchdown. It wasn't a field goal game. They still had to score a touchdown. So I'm not even making a big deal about it, because the ramifications, there still was no guarantee. I know some people, it would be a pick 6. I didn't think it would be a pick 6. I thought it could have been picked, thought it could have been an incompletion. I didn't think that was going to be the back-breaking, we lost because of that play.
And that's what
some people try to make it into that, though.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Like I said, I just don't know what else he would have done with it. That goes back to what I was saying earlier. So, yeah. But
my thing, because it was third and that wasn't third.
5, 6, I don't know.
My whole thing was, you don't want a turnover right there.
So you would have been good with him taking the sack or whatever?
Take the sack, incomplete, punt it, play defense. Because I didn't feel like Trace was going to be able to march 80 yards. I thought that last play we talked about it was literally you make one bad mistake, one bad angle, and that's the difference in that play being a touchdown or being an incompletion or potential interception. I didn't think that he was going to be able to do that again. So I was still confident. But if you turn the ball over right there and they're getting it around midfield, that's a little bit different. That puts you in a lot more of a bind defensively. And now we're over here and we're sitting on the edge of our seats like, all right, we're going to be able to pull it out again. That's more so why I didn't like the throw also, because it's like, bro, in that field position right there, you can't take a turnover at that point in the game. You can't. But it worked out. We were able to keep them off the field and they ultimately won it. But that's some of the reasons why we say what we say like that, man.
Got you. All right, is that it for the hot topic?
That is, man. But I do got to talk a little bit about DraftKings right here, man. Because first off, DraftKings, the top-rated sportsbooking app in America. Number 1 is safe, secure, and reliable. But you know this, right? You know this already. And we already talked about how for the first-time users, if you use the promo code Moats, how you could receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money, which we absolutely love. We talked about those things. But what we didn't talk about were my picks from a week ago. Now, granted, we said that it was a little bit wacky just because of how the game kept getting moved. We also talked about how we did hit on half of our bet earlier. We said, man, we thought that the Patriots would win straight up money line against the Cardinals, and we did like the Steelers to beat the Ravens by 10 or more, which they should have. But they didn't. Obviously, they didn't, and that did cost us. But what I also did, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this on the mic because when we recorded, the prop bets, the player prop bets weren't available. But one of the bets that had been hitting on was Ben over 1.5 touchdown passes. Definitely should have had it yesterday, but unfortunately he didn't. So that did cost. But actually, I told you off the mic, I did a 3-player prop bet parlay, and I was a little frustrated because I should have hit on all 3. So my 3 were this, and shout out to DraftKings because they do some awesome prop bets. The first one was Ben over 1.5 touchdown passes. The second one was Benny Snell to rush for 57 yards or more. The third one was Deontay Johnson to have 75 yards receiving. All 3 of them should have hit yesterday. The only one I hit on was Benny Snell, but all 3 of those things literally should have hit, and we would have been sitting very, very pretty. But that's the beauty of sports betting, baby. So shout out to DraftKings for the opportunity, and I do think that next week we now have to worry about Ben being under 1.5 touchdown passes, baby. That's just how I feel, man, because right now, ever since we started doing it, it's been consistent. It's been hitting, and it should have, like I said, hit again yesterday. So we're still on the track with that, man. But now that we're done with that part of it, I think it's time to transition to the new named organization, the Washington Football Team. Yes. Pull up my handy dandy computer with my notes on it.
We'll see if I need to pull up my notes from my email or not. I might be able to go off the top of the dome. We'll see.
All right, okay. I mean, you should be able to. For me, I just don't like to.
No, I know. I always email it to myself on my phone beforehand. I don't know how many of the last times where I haven't really needed to pull it up. Sometimes I surprise myself with that.
All right. Well, here we go then. So, for me, man, when I look at the Washington Football Team, watching them play Dallas, that was obviously their most recent game. They played them on Thanksgiving. It was interesting to see because obviously that Cowboys team, they had Andy Dalton and they actually looked a lot better, but it was weird because obviously the final score being what it was, it did look ugly, but turnovers were the biggest part of that. I think they scored once or twice on it. I mean, I know they scored once on a, I guess you call that a pick 6 at the end.
The end of the game.
Yeah, that was a pick 6, but they still were able to create turnovers and create short fields. I thought that was the biggest thing with Washington. But as a whole, I think that they're not a good team, but they're not bad either. They're just kind of just average, mediocre. And it's kind of what you would expect when you talk about a team that is very young. I mean, across the board, they're young. They're still playing with the quarterback position. It looks like they're going to be settled in on Alex Smith, but he's essentially, I think, their 3rd quarterback that they've used this season. So anytime you start talking about using multiple quarterbacks, we saw this firsthand last year, that does have a little bit of a negative impact. But with Alex Smith, his style of play, he is very conservative with the ball. I mean, it's Alex Smith. You know him. I mean, he's not going to change his game in whatever year this is from, 10, 11, 12 maybe. With
oh man, well he came in with Rodgers.
Yes.
He came in with Rodgers. So this is like what 15 or 16. But like technical years, I mean, he sat out those 2 years.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so
maybe 12 or 13.
So with Alex Smith though, man, he's a guy that's going to feature his backs. He checks down a lot. He'll take calculated shots downfield, but that's not his game. He works short as his number 1 priority, and then from there he'll look intermediate. But I thought Antonio Gibson looked really good against Dallas. It was funny, man, hearing one of the commentators. I usually don't like to listen to the commentators, but it was good to hear they were talking about comparing him to Arian Foster, the running back used to play with the Texans. And honestly, they do run very similar, very smooth runners, almost like they're gliding, not fast. They're not going to blaze by you. They're not as elusive as a Chris Johnson type, right? But just a smooth runner. You can see like how he does a good job, I think, of being patient. He does a good job of setting up his blocks and ultimately using defenders' speed against them. I do like his game. Terry McLaurin, I think that he's going to be a star. He's one of those guys. Definitely. You see him, he's been lighting it up. He's to me the most scary part of their offense. What he's able to do, man. He's a really good player from that standpoint. But yeah, man, I think that they're just. Yeah, they're not gonna wow you. They
a little better Jaguars, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's just once again, I think we use this analogy with the Jaguars. We said it's kind of like watching Syracuse men's basketball. They're going to 2-3 zone you to death. Like, they're not going to wow you. They're going to just slow, methodical, check down, wait till you make a mistake, take a shot. Like,
when I think that's
their game.
And that's what they want to do to win, because there are 2 games with Alex Smith where he threw for over 300 yards. The one was like over 50 attempts. The other one was over 30 attempts. They lost. Granted, it was by 3, so they were still in the game and everything. But then the 2 that they just won recently, the Bengals and the Cowboys, he had like 15, 16 attempts,
Slow
like 150
play
yards and a touchdown. Yeah.
Slow play it, allow Antonio Gibson. I mean, they played through Gibson. As much as Terry gave them the downfield threat and he made big plays, their offense runs through Antonio Gibson between the runs and just as soon as from a passing standpoint, they get rid of the ball, they're dropping it off to Gibson. This is one of those games where Vince, Spillane, Avery, because they're going to see Gibson the most, they have to be really good tacklers. It's not like Gibson's not going to route you up. He's not Le'Veon with his routes, but he's a guy that they're going to make you have to consistently open field tackle. And if you miss a tackle, now they can create some splash off of that, but you got to consistently tackle this guy. And he's going to get the opportunities. Like I said, you watch that tape, man, on Washington, and that's the guy they want to get the ball right now, man.
No, definitely. I feel confident in it, though, with our run defense and everything, because I was looking at just his game logs, too. His 2 best games were against the Cowboys, and then his second best game was against the Bengals. And so if we're facing a run defense like the Steelers here, obviously we're losing Bud Dupree. I think we got the pieces. Is Tuitt going to be back?
I do not know, because he actually tested positive. He wasn't a contact trace.
Oh, was he? Yeah, he might be out for this game.
That's
especially with the time difference.
Right, because it's 5 days.
Wait, when was it though?
I don't know.
Was that over the weekend that it happened?
Yeah, but even if it was, that's only going to be a week.
Because like Lamar's good Tuesday for this game.
Yeah, but I thought Lamar.
You need like 10 or 14 days.
I thought if it's a positive test, it's 14 days. If it's a contact trace, it's like 5 days. So that's like the biggest difference. That's also why some of the players from both sides were able to come back for the game yesterday, because of the contact trace.
That's 2 weeks, because I think we got the news, was it Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
And that's why Lamar's going to be back for this game against the Cowboys, right? So, and they say even if they would have played on Monday, he would his first day eligible would be Monday, but because they play on Tuesday, now he's going to get at least 1 day of practice in there.
Oh, okay. See, from everything I knew,
they were trying to make it like Lamar is getting extra. He's get to play now because they moved it back.
That's what I thought. That's what I was telling you. All this stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
He was fine on Monday, bro.
What's going on here?
Yeah, he would have played Monday anyways. It's just now he just gets 1 extra practice. That's about it.
Okay, gotcha.
But because we had to clarify that up prior to this game, so we had to we actually ended up talking to a couple of the beat writers in Baltimore about that.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Because that's what we said. We were frustrated. We were talking about how literally we felt that the NFL was doing that so Lamar could play, but then they had let us know that when Lamar actually tested positive, just off of the days allotted, he would have been fine to play that Monday anyways.
So everyone was just speculating, probably based off when we got the news.
Absolutely. And then they just and that's what we kind of said, where it's like you get one thing, you want to make it, oh man, it's definitely that. Man, they definitely getting us. It's like, not really. That was going to happen regardless. Now he just gets a practice. That's the only difference.
I wonder why that wasn't bigger news, at least saying like, hey, if this isn't about Lamar just playing on Tuesday.
I think the thing was...
maybe it's because we were just trying to get our game in.
I think it was to the point where the narrative was already out there and Steeler fans were just going to run with it. Seriously, we're going to run with it regardless. So I thought that was more so the case. I mean, even when I saw where people went crazy about the Ravens players saying that we didn't feel comfortable going out there and playing a game on Tuesday when we hadn't even been able to be in our facility for, a whole week. And you talk about going out there playing a game. So they said we at least want 1 day of practice. And people were like, oh man, I can't believe the NFL is going to give these guys this advantage to practice. I'm like, bro, that's not even an advantage. That's just health and safety. And we still saw how many guys pull up limp. RG3 went down hammy. We saw Jimmy Swift go down with a groin. We saw Marlon Humphrey deal with cramp. We saw Marcus Peters. DJ Fluker. Everybody that was out there, you deal with that. And the difference was with Pittsburgh was able to practice. And then they gave them multiple days off. And then they still had them come back and practice 2 days. They practiced Sunday and Monday. Baltimore wasn't in their facility until Tuesday. That's the difference. So I never looked at it as Baltimore is getting all these advantages as much as people wanted to make it like that. It's like, man, if you want to run with that narrative to make you feel better about it, you can do that. But I didn't think that it was justified in this scenario. And that's why you always hear me talk about just narratives and how people run with it. Because like you said, if you just paid attention to that and looked at it, man, Lamar was going to be back out there anyways. But that wasn't the narrative. The narrative was we got the short end. Everybody's been a little bit backwards. That's why he would be out there. That's not the case.
Yeah, that was my thing. I always felt like, man, there are some things going on behind the scenes that's not making sense. There could be some shady stuff going on, but at the end of the day, the NFL is probably having conversations within, with whatever organizations or little departments that they have of like, yo, what should we be doing here? Right. And ultimately, they're just trying to do what's best for the NFL to keep the season going.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's things that we could be questioning on the outside, like, yo, this isn't adding up.
Because I'm like, for the NFL, let's be real.
But to get worked up about it, it's like,
Because I'm like, if the NFL really wanted to give the short end stick to the Steelers, they could have easily just said, what? As soon as they tested positive, the Ravens, and they had to shut it down and didn't play Thursday, they could have just said, all right, we're going to the 16-game playoff. Don't worry about the game.
That'd be worse.
Exactly. If they really wanted to go, oh, we're attacking the Steelers on such a short end, they didn't have to move. Even when they moved it the first time, right? They moved it from Thursday to Sunday. They could have done it then. They could have said, well, we moved it again. You know what? Don't even worry about the game. We're just going to implement the playoffs and good to go. They even could have done it after they moved it from Tuesday. So as much as that whole narrative of, oh, man, it's still at the short end, oh, I can't believe this. They've been over backwards for Baltimore. It's like, not really.
For that specific game, it definitely helped us.
It helped us, number one, because we got healthy players back out there. We talked about Joe, who was dealing with some injuries going into the game if it was on Thursday. We talked about Juju. You take away those two players, we short 14 points right now. Realistically, are we not?
Juju was questionable.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Juju scored a touchdown, and Joe Hayden got the pick six. But both of those guys are questionable if they would have played on Thursday night. So to me, I'm like, dude, that worked out in our favor as well. So
Mark Ingram and
JK,
they didn't end up playing. I thought they were going to play.
So as much as people wanted to run with that narrative, to me, like I said, I just didn't think that it was warranted in this situation, because if the NFL really wanted to do that to the Steelers, they got that. It's sitting in their pocket, and they could have pulled it out and been justified based on what the wording that they used. They not only was it an impactful game, but they had to move it multiple times. So everything was in line for them to do that, and they decided against it. So if anything, the NFL was looking out for Pittsburgh. As much as we don't want to hear that, they did look out. Because y'all, as much as we get mad about moving it to Wednesday, imagine they would have just said, we're going to take away that first round bye right now.
Definitely.
Especially with us being undefeated. And now it's different if we talk 3 weeks down the road and we don't drop the game or two and Kansas City's in front. Now we ain't even tripping on that first round bye. But right now,
we're just going to be healthy.
Like right now, we want the bye because it's ours. Yeah.
Now, are you thinking they might not do it then, the extra week? Because I know you definitely thought it was going to happen. Are you feeling like it might not?
Now I feel like it might not, because this would have been prime opportunity. Yeah. This was a significant game on both sides. This is a game that got moved multiple times. 3 times now? See, it went from Thursday to Sunday, Sunday to Tuesday, and then Tuesday to Wednesday. So it got moved multiple times. Everything was lined up perfect. You still were getting positive tests the day of the game. So I'm like, I mean, for everything that happened, if that was going to be the case, that was the time to move it. So if they didn't move it after that, I'm starting to doubt that they will move it.
So let's get that bye.
Absolutely, man.
All right, so what was that?
So that was
kind of covered their offense. Yeah.
And now with their defense, man, we talked about the defense a little bit earlier in the year. They have a great front. They get after quarterbacks. Chase Young leads it, but Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, dude, they come in waves, bro. And it's good to see, because obviously outside of their front, the front is where they're most talented at, but they have good players on their defense. I mean, even their linebackers, you talk about Thomas Davis, John Bostic is a guy who played here. They're not going to wow you at this stage, but you talk about fundamentally sound, you talk about getting lined up, not missing tackles. Those guys give you that. And then they got my young JMU boy in the secondary, Jimmy Moreland. Shout out to my dog, Jimmy, man.
I was going to say their cornerbacks are pretty good too.
Yeah. Like the thing is, they don't have a ton of like all pro, like how we talk about our defense in Baltimore's defense, where it's just loaded Pro Bowlers, all pros. They are that next tier where they have really good players, but they don't have the plethora of high-end talent just yet.
Young talented guys.
They got young guys that could grow into that. Chase Young, he could become a TJ Watt type. Montez Sweat, now that he's healthy, he could become a Bud Dupree type. We know what Ryan Kerrigan is. Ryan Kerrigan. He's the wily vet. He's like their version of Cam Hayward, just not as productive at this stage right now. But he's just a consistent guy. You know what he is. But the rest of the guys, like I said, they're just younger players they could grow into that. Ronald Darby, he's another guy where it's like we've seen him be successful, but he's not Steven Olsen or Joe Hayden, but he's a good corner though. You see, so that's what their team is. So they're not an easy win. We're not saying that at all, but it's one of those opponents where if we execute, we win this game. Yep. We can't go out there and play like how we played the other night. that's not going to work. But if you go out there and you play and you execute the way they're capable of, you take care of business against Washington. Washington, they're going to be a tough out, but us playing to our potential, we still should win this game convincingly.
We talked about game plan last time. Does it change? What are you thinking? Do we throw the ball 45, 50 times and then just hope we get these red zone problems worked out?
I mean, you hope we all hoping, I guess. Sheesh.
I feel like that's it. I feel like that's the game plan.
You said 45 times. Been through it, 50 times, right?
50.
Yeah, because then it was at 51. So, yeah, throw it 51 times again. Yeah, sure. Can't hurt.
You don't think? We trying the run game? But that's what I mean. Their defensive line compared to Baltimore.
Thing, honestly, even though we're still struggling running the ball, you cannot abandon it. That's all. That's my thing. I don't care as much as hard as it is to fix. You still have to find ways to fix that because, like I said, even Baltimore yesterday, when we're breaking down, we broke down that game. We broke it down as if that was regular full strength Baltimore across the board. That was nowhere near full strength Baltimore, and we saw what we looked like. So for me, I feel like you still have to go to the lab and figure out the best way to run the ball. Okay, we've tried it with the different formations. Okay, we still weren't really committed to it. We didn't see a lot of shifts and motions when they tried to run the ball yesterday. We didn't see any of that. For some reason, they don't want to go to that. Okay, fine.
That's when we're not lining up in shotgun, or
correct,
even when we are?
So, a little bit of both, because we've seen them under center and in the gun use some of the shifts and motions to ultimately open up the running game. For some reason, they don't want to go back to that. So, all right, cool. We're not going to go to that. You got Derek White. He's healthy. They were using him a little bit in the passing stuff, which is kind of weird. I know they highlighted on the interception where he was open and stuff like that. That's not his game per se. I feel like if you're going to use him, you use him to block and you run the ball with him.
Well, I was curious about that because he was wide open, but that can't be the first read, right?
Heck no. I was gonna say. Heck no, bro. That's why I was like, when Collins points, I'm like, yeah, he was open, but I'm not tripping on. Like, I was more so, for me, I didn't have the issue with Ben not throwing there. I'd rather Ben throw it out the back of the end zone, but obviously it's fourth down, so you have to try to make a play. That obviously wasn't it.
I just think it was a bad throw, too. Short on that bad.
For me, I'm even 50-50 on the decision. I kind of thought you take the points early because I didn't think that Baltimore could keep up. And I felt like, I know it was me as a defender, me getting a stop on fourth down would give me so much more confidence than if you kick that field goal and now I'm looking at this 3-0. So to me, that was kind of why I had an issue with the decision as a whole. I thought like when she didn't get it on third down, man, kick the field goal because the biggest issue with them is going to be scoring points to keep up. Kick these field goals. Okay, cool. You're going to get more times down there. We saw how many times they got into the red zone. That was never an issue. But when you leave and you don't get any points, we're not banking on Joe Hayden getting a pick six off of RG3, not reading it being covered too. I mean, to bank on that happening, that's crazy. And I don't think any of us could. And honestly, it's the second time that Coach Eden got lucky like that versus Baltimore. I remember the first time we played him last year where he defers the kick in overtime and it ends up working out. But it's like, bro, you can't guarantee that's going to work. I mean, how many times could you do that in that scenario working like that? Like, that's not realistic. So that's why yesterday for me, it was more so like I didn't like the decision to even go for it. I think, man, you kick that field goal. We were stopping them. We literally had a 3-and-out, and then we had forced a fumble. They fumbled the snap. So it was like, bro, they weren't moving the ball. You never felt threatened by them offensively. Don't bail them out though. And I felt like you going for it on fourth down and ultimately not having success, you bailed them out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's my thing, man. But the way I think you attack them, man, you still have to. The passing is going to be there. We're going to throw the ball, but it's not going to be as easy as we like. And I feel like if we continue this, just stay empty and just throw it, we'll move it 20-20. But then we're going to have these issues again in the red zone unless something happens, where we make a guy miss or we can catch a jump ball and stuff like that.
Why not just do that and then do the running game in the red zone? Unless you feel like it should be happening throughout the whole game.
I feel like it needs to happen throughout the whole game. If you get in the red zone and that's the only time now that you want to start trying to run the ball, you tip your hand. You're very predictable. Right. It's no different than if you run the ball first and second down, throw it on third down. It's predictable. If we get inside the 20 and now all of a sudden you want to, that running back's in now. Benny Snell's in. Okay, they're about to run the ball. Here we go now. Like, to me, I don't think that works against this particular defense. I do think, though, the tempo, I think that's going to give them a little bit of challenges because anytime you get great edge rushers, the tempo passing is going to make those guys get tired. It drains you. After 2 and 3 of rushes, 2-3 rushes, when the guy's getting out in 2 seconds, you get winded. So now by the time we're 3, 4, 5, 6 plays in, that rush has been, it loses the edge. It's not the same anymore. So I think that does help out. But I think that, man, when you have edge rushers like this, similar to how Baltimore attacked us, we saw what Baltimore's doing, a lot of counters, a lot of power runs where they're hitting it more direct inside, but using our edge rushers against themselves, right? We talked about Bud and TJ, how they're great edge rushers. We would see them get upfield, and these guys are hitting it more downhill, A gap, tight B gap. When I'm looking at this Washington football team, I see these edge rushers I just listed. I'm saying the same thing. Okay, let them get upfield. Let's hit it off inside of them, tight inside. That's how Buffalo, when they run the ball as Bills, that's what they do with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. They don't necessarily have the old line that's just going to blow you off the field, but they use those edge rushers that are playing against them. They use it against them. They see the tackle. Like, oh yeah, we're about to get after these guys. Okay, you rush the field you want to. We hitting it right inside, tight off for you. So to me, that's something that this team could look to do against this Washington football team because of that element of their game from a defensive standpoint. They have great edge rush. These guys get after the quarterback, but you use that against them. That's what I think, man.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good take. I think that's it. You stop Gibson, you stop McLaren.
Well, and the other thing is this, man. For me, my last thing is with Ron Rivera, and this has showed up multiple times now. Alert the trick play. He's gonna have a trick play. They hit a double pass.
Dude, they did it with the Cowboys.
That one, whenever
they
absolutely.
did the little giant shit.
So they did it too. Think about it. They had the fumble, the center sneak, fumble roost, whatever you want to call it. I call it the annexation of Puerto Rico. It's my favorite. They had that play, but then they scored on the double pass to Logan Thomas, who threw it into the end zone.
Yeah, you're right.
That's Ron Rivera. I mean, ever since you watch him in Carolina, he's gonna have gadgets. That's why they call him Riverboat Ron. He's gonna take a gamble. That's what he does. So that's another thing that this defense has to be alert for, man. You have to make sure you're on your screws. See what you're supposed to see. Be fundamentally sound, because when you're fundamentally sound, it'll wipe out all of the trickeration, all of the smoke and mirror stuff. But when you start seeing too much, this guy's got, is it a reverse? Oh, let me look over here. But you're supposed to be a man coverage on this guy. Now that type of stuff works out. And that's how they got Dallas a little bit, man. You saw Dallas where it's, all right, we're going to not be as disciplined as we should be. And it cost them. So to me, that's the other thing we got to worry about, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like the annexation of Puerto Rico, though. It's dope.
Is that all we got here?
I feel like it is, bro.
Yeah, I think we're good.
But it's a good podcast, man. I feel like we've given the people a good amount of content right here, man.
Definitely.
Some high quality info, man. Breaking down, previewing. So yeah, it's only right that we get to these predictions for the Steelers versus the
I didn't even think of that. I did not even think of that. Yeah. Well, we're 11-0, man.
The beard is boofy, bro. You got a little chia pet on your face right now. I love it, man.
We're 11-0.
Chia.
Dude, whenever I was eating that pizza, man, it is getting tough to eat certain foods, because the pizza, I'm getting grease all over my beard and stuff.
You know what you started to look like? You remember Peter Griffin when he had that, where he grew this big, he had like little birds and stuff in his beard? Like,
I'm not family.
You're not a family.
Yeah,
I love my family guy, bro. But yeah, he had this beard, and it was like a little bird, had a whole nest and little chicks hatching in it. Bird poop. I'm like, when he walked in, that you saw, so I was like, Lord, it's getting there. But I like it though. It's 11-0, so let's keep it going, man.
So you know what goes with that then. It's the combo. It's the combo, I think, is what is the powerful thing. It just overcomes anything else.
That's what it is.
That in your hat. I think that's the trifecta.
Anytime we get taco meat.
Yeah, it's a plus. It's always a plus.
It's a plus.
So 27-13.
I like it, man. So you got 27-13.
Steelers get the dub.
I'm going to go 28-17 Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah, 28-17. I think we'll be able to move the ball and score. Alex Smith, he's going to do some good things. He protects the ball. He makes sure that they are in the right play. That's what a veteran quarterback is supposed to do. To me right now, Alex Smith is a high-end backup, though. I don't view him as the guy, but it's a great story, man. Great inspiration to see him back out there. Even though every time I see him get hit now, I'm always cringing. I'm like, oh God, please be okay. Just get up, because obviously how it happened, last year or 2 years ago for him. But yeah, man, I just think that 28-17, I think we're going to be able to score. We're going to be able to take advantage of that defense. And I don't anticipate not only the drops, but the red zone drops that we saw from the Steelers with Deontay and Ebron. I just don't see that consistently happen. Where these corners, they're good, but they're not going to be making plays in the end zone like Marlon Humphrey. We said Marlon, he made 2 great plays in the end zone. James Washington and Claypool, where it kept points off the board. I don't see their corners making those type of plays consistently against us in the red zone. So yeah, I just think ultimately that we beat them. It's gonna be convincing. And I also like the fact,
bro.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that because we had an ugly performance like that, and
motivation.
Yeah, well, because I can tell you for a fact, like talking with those guys, it's not how we talk about like codding and always silver lining. That's never the conversation with the Steelers right now, man.
Oh yeah, you could hear from Tomlin, from Ben,
man.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that to me is why I'm motivated. I feel like this is gonna be a great scenario because typically after an emotional game, when you're playing against the Ravens, it's always emotional, it's always heated, it's always tight. Usually you can have a letdown, but that's not going to be the case because now you're pissed off. Now you want to go back out there and prove that we are as good as we've been saying. We're not the worst 11-0 team. We're not, a fraud and all these other things. Like that's the thing that I think this team is going to take more personal than necessarily not being talked about or not being viewed as the number one team in the weeks prior. I think now that people are calling them the worst 11-0 team, I feel like that's going to motivate them even more to come out there and want to execute and get some of those things addressed.
Works for me, dude.
Yeah, man. So I like it, bro.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's it.
That was fun, man. It was a good podcast. A lot of action. So hope y'all enjoyed the game. Hope y'all enjoyed the Rockefeller tree lighting. Woo! Looking forward to this Monday night matchup, man. Make sure y'all are tuned in. As always, we appreciate everybody that's been tuning in, man, through the podcast, all the subscribers on YouTube and things like that. Appreciate you. And until next time,
peace.